third video in my post-hardcore, noise rock, post-rock. Just a big category of somewhat underground music that I consider not metal, but in sharing that same fan base in many ways. So, first one here is Melt of the Architect. This one is The Ties That Blind. Melt of the Architect formed in Ohio in 2003, and they still exist to this day. And this album is their second of 5. I followed the one before this and after this, but this is the only CD I have. But this one came out on Translation Loss in 2006. It's ISIS influenced post-metal, but very epic moments, and they just do a good job of just bridging the mellow moments with the crushing heaviness. They do a good job of it, and I should check out what they're doing these days. Savage Republic. This one's a little different. This is more of a post-punk album. The Savage Republic were a post-punk band from LA, and they formed in the early 80s, and then they broke up for the entirety of the 90s and reformed in 2002, and finally they would put out this album here, 1938, in 2007. And I think what drew me to this was I never heard of them and saw that they were signed to Neurot, the label owned by the members of Neurosis. So again, this is more of a post-rock thing, but I really liked it, and for whatever reason, I haven't heard anything from before or after this album, but it's really good. Here is the standout album of this series right here. This is Transmission Zero. They were a Dutch sludge post-rock band that put out 2 albums and then split up. They do the ISIS Neurosis thing, but less pretentious, a little more street level. But I also found it had a real dreamlike atmosphere. It's on a Go-Kart, which I think was a punk rock label. Don't know if that's still around or not. But they had an album after this, their second and final one, Memory of a Dream, and that's just as good. But I don't have that one on CD. So this band here is definitely a standout of a genre for sure. This one here is Maudlin of the Well. My Fruit, Psychobells, A Seed Combustible. I saw this when I saw KO. Live. This was being sold at the merch table, even though it was an older release. But I'll get to that in a second. This is put out on Dark Symphonies in 1997. And Maudlin of the Well are an avant-garde metal band from Boston. And basically the precursor to KO. I didn't know this until doing a little bit of research, but Choirs of the Eye, the first KO. Album, that was supposed to be the 4th Maudlin of the Well album, but they had some major lineup changes and changed the name to KO. But back to this album. This was the debut, and following this, they would put out 2 albums, Bath and Leaving Your Body Map, 2 albums put out at the same time, but different, sold separately. And they were doing the KO. Thing before KO. Yeah, it's not really any better or worse than the first couple KO. Albums. It's more of the same, but it's good stuff. And they would reform in 2009. Or they put out one more album in 2009 for free. And that one was not as good as the first 3, but it was cool. And as I mentioned before, I'm a big KO. Fan. I follow their career pretty closely. Finally, Scale the Summit. This is The Migration. This came out on Prosthetic. Oh, what year was that? 2013. So Scale the Summit is more of a progressive instrumental rock band. And this is their 4th of 8 albums. I love this and everything that came before it. And for whatever reason, I just stopped listening and have not heard the 4 albums they put out since this came out. But seeing Scale the Summit live one time, and that was one of my favorite shows. I brought my wife along, and there wasn't that many people there, but we just kind of got some good seats by the bar, but close to the stage. And we were just really messed up that night, and they were blowing our minds. You can fill in the blanks, but yeah, I just thought they were just like shredding magic from their guitars. They were awesome players, and that was a standout show for me. One of my favorites. Just one of my best memories of going to a show. And that's it. See you on the next one. Thank you.